Welcome to Meet the Author, where you can join in on insightful conversations with best-selling and award-winning indie published authors. Your hosts today are Rob and Joan, who themselves are indie published authors, book publicists, and paranormal investigators with Tampa Bay Spirits, based in Tampa Bay, Florida. Thanks for dropping by. And now, on with the show.
Hi, I'm Rob.
And I'm Joan. We're really glad that you decided to be in the audience today, whether you're watching us live on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, or if you're listening later on to the audio podcast, or if you're watching from Georgia, WDJY, if you're listening, I should say. You can't watch on the radio.
Well, you can sit and look at your radio, I suppose.
So we thought that we had the Facebook problem solved, but
we don't.
We don't. So every Wednesday you can just persevere and we will eventually get it fixed. We got it fixed finally, but it takes a while. Paul Hollis says, "Evening, Rob and Joan. Happy to be here. We're happy that you're here, Paul. How are you doing? It's good to see you."
Yeah. Well, as always, Thursday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern Time, WDJYFM.com. You can listen to our shows there, past shows. 99.1 FM on the radio in Atlanta if you live there in northern Georgia. Saturdays, 5:30 p.m. is Episode Rewind. That's Eastern Time every week. And next Wednesday, 7 o'clock Eastern Time, we're going to have Angela Eureka Smith on live again. And also, one other thing, tomorrow night, Thursday, is Haunted Campfire Tales podcast. 7:30 p.m. You can watch that on Carter Novels Facebook page, or you can watch it on the Haunted Campfire Tales podcast Facebook page, or you can watch it at Meet the Author on YouTube, and then also LinkedIn and
WLFE DB.
Yeah, that one as well.
YouTube.
But we have a special guest. Shelley Hansen will be on with Lessons from the Seashell Kingdom, and she's going to talk to us about that.
Yeah, and she's been on our show, but she has some stories to tell that, she didn't tell us. So it sounds really spooky and interesting.
Right.
Marjorie Deering says, "Hello, present." Hello, Marjorie.
Hey, Marjorie.
We're so glad that you're here. How are you doing?
I want to make everybody also aware of babyboomer.org. Everything as far as podcasts, books, all that sort of thing. It's a pretty big website resource for authors. Babyboomer.org. We just got hooked up with them this week, and it looks pretty good. They have lots of resources.
It is really good because they reached out to us and said, "We like your content. Will you be on our website?" Oh, okay. So we're sure they're quite good.
Yeah. It takes a minute. The site is big enough, or maybe old enough, maybe it's old, that it takes a little bit to load up. Maybe it's their server. I don't know. But it seems to take a while to load up. Hi, Robert.
Robert White says, "Hi, here too." Hello, Robert, all the way from Australia. So glad that you can join us. How are you doing? George Desmukes, hello, everybody. Me, Nadine, and the two critters are here.
Woof, woof.
Yes, woof, woof, woof.
That's for the two puppies.
For the two puppies.
Okay, now, finally, the cover contest is coming to a close. This Friday is going to be the end of it, thank God. This is round 4, which is the final round.
If you haven't voted in round 4, please vote because we are losing.
Go to allauthor.com.
Well, we'll be second place, but I want to be first place.
Go to the contest tab on allauthor.com. Click on the contest tab and then go to contest voting. Click there. We'll be in the second position. A Chance of a Ghost is the name of the book book cover that you want to click on for us. We need to rally the troops and get everybody in there and vote like crazy because I think it's going to get kind of intense here over the next day.
And Joe Congela won't be in the audience tonight. I'm sad to say his grandson is having his 7th birthday tonight, which is more important than anything else.
His family over us. No, that's 6. The way
Paul
it
Hollis said, voted 4 times. If folks have more than one email, each email can vote. Just saying. Ooh, Paul, that's really cool. Have you voted in this 4th round? Because there have been 4
you
rounds. I should vote. Okay.
Didn't even think of that. Jeez.
I have more than one email, actually.
Yeah, that's true.
I can vote quite a few times. Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. All right. Well,
if I can remember all my emails. Oh, Robert says, getting the IV line out today. So happy about that. Amen. No longer
That's
going
good.
to be strangled by
That's
the
good.
tubes. No kidding, Robert. I'm really good. Really glad. Not good. I'm glad. Well, I'm good.
And Paul did vote 4 times in the final round.
Thank you, Paul.
That's amazing. Have your wife vote too. Yeah.
Yeah.
We can use everybody we can get.
Just to let y'all know, we're never asking you to do this again.
No, we're never going to do this cover contest again.
But Crispian did such an amazing job on this book. We really felt like he should get some recognition. But this is the last time we'll ever do that. So
right?
Don't worry.
Okay. So I guess what we better do is bring our guest in.
Yes. You don't want to talk to us all night, we know.
No, probably not. I don't think we want to talk to ourselves all night.
Just please bring him on.
Hey, Noah.
I'm sorry.
Hello. How are you?
Good.
Good. How are you doing?
I bet you didn't know this was going to be a circus, right?
No, it's good. I went and took a bathroom break. I'm just kidding.
Wow.
Had a cup of coffee.
That's right. Dinner.
You bake some cinnamon rolls.
Right.
Yeah. How are you doing, really?
I'm well. How are you?
We're really good. We're looking forward to hearing all about your book and why you decided to write it and all of that. Whatever you want to tell us.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah, my new book is Chaos, Overcoming the Overwhelming.
Let me bring up that.
Why don't we start with telling us a little bit about yourself and how you came to write the book in the first place?
Yeah. Well, this is my first book, and so this is very exciting for me. And I own actually a business. It's called the Chaos Movement, and so that kind of helps with the use of that word. I'm trying to get all the use of that word I can at one time, I guess, but here we are. But we do a lot of consulting and coaching and marketing for authors. And this was now my chance to shine and to release a book of my own. But this book is a nonfiction self-help sort of book, but with Christian points throughout the book. And I try to write it with hope, help, and humor. And that was very important for me because the reason I wrote this was years ago, almost a decade ago now, I was incarcerated and tried taking my own life just because I thought life was over. It's like when you're in that pit, it's hard to see and anything but the darkness. And it was such a hard season of life for me because I thought there was no more purpose. I thought that was it. And then I decided when I got out, I wanted to make sure people knew, no matter what sort of chaos they were experiencing, that there still is purpose in their pain and in their past. And that's pretty much the premise of the book. And the good thing about the word chaos is it's so interchangeable. While it can be, when you're talking about how someone's life is in chaos, it can be something like incarceration. It can be addiction, but it can also be divorce. It can be job loss. It can be the loss of a loved one. It can be illness. And so the list is endless. And while we may be overwhelmed by different forms of chaos, there's good news is that we can all overcome.
Yeah. And how did you decide to use the word chaos for your business and for the book, for your brand? Let's call it your branding.
Yeah, that I really don't even remember that exact moment that word just kind of stuck. I definitely felt like everything was chaotic in my life during that time. And for me, while I was there, I remember writing letters to my mom and my dad. And it became kind of like I had to have that moment where I was like, okay, this is it. I can't change where I am, but I can change my mindset. And so I can physically be behind bars, but mentally I don't want to be. And so I was going to try to write, and I was writing letters, and it was really encouragement to kind of my family and to myself. It was very therapeutic for myself to say things like, we're going to get through this. God's got this, those sorts of encouragement. And then when I got out, my mom, she's super mom, she handed me this this vintage like suitcase, and inside it was every letter I ever wrote her.
Oh,
yeah. And for me, I started sifting through it, and I was like, there's some good stuff here. There's something that's doable here. And so I was like, that's when it was that moment of, I wanted to turn this into something. And for me as a Christian, there was a verse that just kept popping up in the letters, but also in my heart. And it was this verse from this guy in the Bible named Joseph, who went from a pit to prison to eventually the palace. And at the end of all of the chaos that he experienced, which was 13 years of his life, he stood before his brothers, who pushed him in the pit and to begin with, and started all of his chaos. And he looked at his brothers in the face and he said, what the enemy intended for evil, God turned it around and used it for good to save many. And I've heard that verse so much, especially living in the Bible Belt, in Georgia. But for me, those last three words I never heard before. And it was that the to save many. And I realized that, wow, when we go through chaos, when bad things happen, God's not only going to turn things around just for us to feel better, it's so we can also help others. And in that moment, that was when I was like, okay, I'm doing this. I'm going to help others. I want others to find hope. I want to help them find help. And I want to bring humor throughout the book. And like, for me, the hope part is for that person who's standing on the ledge going, I'm ready to jump. And it's that hope part of saying, hey, take a step back and understand that you got this. God's got this. He's fighting with you. He's fighting for you. Take a step back. You don't have to be on that ledge. And then it's that moment of, okay, I'm off the ledge now. What do I do? And that's the help part. That's the practical advice of how do you truly go from overwhelming to overcoming.
Yes. And that's a good example too, because it was 12 brothers that, I mean, it wasn't just like a couple of brothers. It was everybody ganged up on him and
yeah, for sure,
tossed him in because he was his dad's favorite.
Yeah. And that's the thing that I hit pretty hard in the book is I do share some of my story in the book because I want people to know when people tell you all the time, oh, you'll get through this. And it's like, how do you know? And I wanted to let them know, I know because I've been there, done that. But I did not want this to be a memoir or an autobiography because who am I? And so, but I wanted to have those moments where I did get vulnerable and have that conversation. But ultimately what, like you mentioned about the brothers, with Joseph, it's the understanding that sometimes chaos happens in our life because of something we did, but sometimes chaos happens in our life because of something someone else did to us. And exactly. It could be as close as a brother, it could be family, it could be a close friend. And so it's understanding that and hitting those points in the book.
Yeah. Could you be your parents? Yeah. George Dismuke says, back in the 50s, there was a pretty famous writer in Corpus Christi named Cash ASHER. Any relation?
I don't know, but if he's famous and he has money, I'm going to find out.
See, he has money because his name is Cash.
yeah, right. He has cash.
Yeah. That's really funny.
I don't know. I guess 23andMe. Where are we at? I got to do that.
Yeah. ASHER, I don't think is that common of an last name. But
yeah, last name. I don't hear it often for a last name.
I hear it as a first name in the Hebrew community, actually. It's a very same with Noah.
Yeah, actually, in fact, ASHER is one of the brothers of Joseph. So
I know.
there we go. Yeah. So we hit different stories of that, like in the Bible, but I also, my mom is a retired teacher, and one thing that we always had to do, even in the summer, vacation was always not just for fun, it was also educational everywhere we went. And I have some great summer memories, but that's something too in this book that I really was happy for, is to kind of say, all right, here's the beginning of the book, here's the end, or here's the beginning of the chapter, here's the end. I know where I want to go with it, but I also wanted to take stories of things in history, things in science, things in other sorts of what I call, the ologies, different ologies, and try to point back to theology throughout the book. And so it's cool to go from talking about caterpillars to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the Bible to somehow Usher, and the way, like literally the musician Usher, have a chapter called "Let It Burn," which is an Usher song, and then these three guys are in a furnace, and so those are the sorts of references. I was actually featured in a musician sort of magazine to talk about the book, and they said some really nice things, but my favorite thing they said was, this guy goes from talking about James Taylor to Taylor Swift in the same chapter. Like, this guy just goes in. And so we have a good time with it for sure. As I've gotten to know you guys, even, yesterday talking, that's one thing is you'll see that I always love to crack a joke. And I think personally, smarter people will probably say it's my coping mechanism, but it really is in a way. It's for me, I feel like when you can joke about your chaos, I feel like you take ownership over it instead of it owning you. And I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, when you can laugh at it. Yes. So George, actually, speaking of that, just said at one time, my life was in chaos, but then she left.
That's funny. Yeah. Well,
it is funny.
There you go.
George is funny.
So there's the humor part.
Yeah, for sure. That's the humor part. And that's the kind of stuff that I like to make jokes in the book. And doing sort of Christian publishing too, I think I try to keep finding where that line was and see how close I could get to it before I was told I couldn't have that in the book, that sort of thing. But a lot of fun.
I say let it all fly.
That's what I think. Yeah.
I'm proud of you that you even know who James Taylor is. Good for you.
I literally have a chapter. It's called I've Seen Fire and I've Seen Rain. And
all right.
Yeah. So we talk about Elijah.
Pretty good stuff back then.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, we think so.
No, seriously. It's
good. Yeah.
It was.
Good lyric,
right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's older than Cash Asher. That's
well, Cash was popular in the 50s, so
50s. Oh no, so
yes.
Older.
So
yeah,
Cash is older than James.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. He's old money.
Yeah, old money. Yeah.
James Taylor and Taylor Swift are new money.
We need to take our first break.
Oh no, is it 20 minutes
yes.
already?
Yeah.
How did that happen? Wait a minute. George Dismuke said, "The day you forget how to laugh at yourself is the day you're in real trouble."
Boy,
Amen,
George. Right? That's for sure.
That's really true.
All right.
We'll be back in a minute. Don't go away.
Don't go away, folks. Got a lot to talk about.
3 minutes, really, but
It's every parent's worst nightmare. Police officer Madison Jackson awakes to discover her baby kidnapped from her crib. Was it revenge for someone she arrested, or something far more sinister? Madison's estranged husband is incarcerated in Supermax. As the second in command of a deadly Mexican cartel, did he issue the order to abduct their daughter? Bye, Baby, Bye, from author Kelly Marshall. Get your copy today.
Many secrets are hidden within the darkness of the jungle. Now comes part 4 in the Jaguar series by retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. In this saga, Brandon, Andrea, and Naja, the Black Jaguar, go deep into the Mato Grosso jungle on a mission to rescue 2 kidnapped children. During their journey, they encounter many dangers, including Yanomami Indians, bent on revenge for the murder of one of their warriors.
Return of the Jaguar is book 4 in the Jaguar series, starting with Two Faces of the Jaguar, The Lost City, and The Jaguar's Quest. All 4 are available on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other bookseller websites worldwide. Return of the Jaguar is a must-read.
The clock is ticking. Can Gracie uncover the truth?
Philip Pliant is the wealthy opportunist plastics dealer and CEO of Pliant Industries. He's also a master thief, creating a pervasive threat to the manufacturing infrastructure in the Caribbean islands markets. With the cartel as his stealth client, the naive city leaders have been seduced, enabling the production of more than 3-dimensional building materials.
The expected profits are monstrous.
Is the art group, now led by Gracie and the family heirs, strong enough to win against this predator?
Can JJ's cats act on the root cause analysis in time?
Will Gracie be able to squash Pliant and the cartels?
Gracie never considered their lives would hang in the balance. The clock is ticking. 5, 4, 3.
And we're back.
We are.
Yes. So, as you were saying, you like to have humor. Okay, give me your 3 H's again.
Hope, help, and humor.
Hope, help, and humor.
Yes.
Yep. And here's the book cover. You see all those little slings and arrows coming down, and they all have different names.
Yeah, different sorts of words that come from, that chaos can take form. So you see words like unemployment, affliction, illness, cancer, rejection, incarceration, loss, hurt, illness. I may have already said that. Loneliness. So addiction, those sorts of words.
Divorce. Overcoming the overwhelming is underneath chaos, the book.
And it's available anywhere people want to buy books. So
you're on Amazon,
Barnes & Noble, Walmart, all the major ones. And then if you go to the website, I kind of put all the hyperlinks there for you. So you just click on the logo of your choice and it'll take you right there.
Well, let me put your website up right now, as long as we're talking about it. His website is thenoahasher.com. That's THENOAHASHER. And like you said, you can find everything right there. You can get in touch with him there. Do you have a newsletter that comes out or anything like that? Or
no, our main kind of place to kind of corral everybody is the website, and then Instagram as well, which happens to also be the Noah Asher. So it's a fun time. We have I'll put quotes from the book there. I'll do some reels and such, and then we do some advertising. Like my newest advertisement, I think, says, "I got 99 problems, but a book ain't one," which is so yeah, it's fun. Have a good time with it. And right now it's ebook, paperback, and hardback. And then hopefully by the end of June, 1st of July, we're actually launching the audiobook, which is it's good. I've heard a lot of it so far, and it's good quality. Very, very proud of it. And with that being said, all proceeds of this book provide copies to prison libraries and rehab centers around America. And the audiobook, because inmates now have tablets inside their prisons. And so we're giving the audiobook to 800,000 inmates behind bars.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
That is cool.
Yeah, that is really cool.
Yeah, I was telling my team when we first did like the opening of the book and saw the cover for the first time, I was telling them, I said, I want to shoot for 1 million this year. And they laughed at me. They thought I was crazy. And then in just one fell swoop of signing a contract, we got 800,000 at one time. And so it's just so beautiful how it's working out, for sure. And that's ultimately the purpose of it. I was never trying to buy a new car by releasing this book. It was truly, I remember how hopeless and helpless I felt, and I wanted to make sure people had hope and they had help. in the midst of their chaos.
But to be clear, this isn't just for prisoners in prison.
No.
There's all kinds of prisons too. You can be a prisoner.
In our minds a lot of times. And in fact, when I was finishing the edits of the book, I asked the person editing, I was like, I need this book back because unfortunately my father passed away. And it was a hard time. I actually was at their house, and he came and he was fine. There was nothing wrong with him. He randomly came and told me, he said, I just want you to know I'm proud of you and for overcoming all that you've overcome. And then he went and took a nap, and I went to wake him up about an hour later to get dinner, and he was gone. And
wow.
Yeah. And so I told the editors, I was like, I need this back because I want to add that because I think it's important, because I think a lot of times chaos does come in that form of loss. And I wanted to make sure people understood that I'm not just telling you, to get over, suck it up, buttercup. There's none of that sort of thing in there. It's truly empathizing and going, no, this is rough. Grief is now, it doesn't just go away. When you walk, grief walks with you. It's a part of you. And to have that conversation throughout the book too is something I really wanted to share. And also too, if that's not enough chaos in someone's life, I also was diagnosed with a rare form of lupus. And we're coming on 2 years now. 2 years ago now, I was in a wheelchair because the doctors could not figure out what was going on. And I personally think they knew it was autoimmune, and everyone knows the L word. They all know lupus. So they just called it lupus because I didn't really have those symptoms. And then they were telling me, no, it's a muscular form of lupus. And I don't know. But bottom line is, it was very trial and error. They were just giving me different sorts of medicines. I did some infusions, which is similar to like chemo.
An IV.
Yeah. And so you sit in the chair for 4.5 hours.
In a
yeah.
bottle.
No fun. Yeah. No fun at all. And did that. I did a bunch of rounds of that. And then bottom line is, here we are. I was in a wheelchair, couldn't walk without just being in complete pain. And now I run 2 miles every day.
Yeah.
And it's letting people know. And it's not that I'd never want to give some sort of false hope of like someone that's sitting in a wheelchair, oh, you're just going to magically, start walking. I don't want to give anyone that sort of false hope. So it's not one of those sorts of books or stories, but I just let people know, like, I do remember how hard that was to think, here I am, I'm in a wheelchair. I don't know if this will ever be, if I'll ever not be in a wheelchair. And that's ultimately what I think is important for people in the midst of their chaos, is to first and foremost accept it. It's just a part of your story now. And just because you're in chaos doesn't mean your story is over. In fact, a lot of times we see how it enriches people. And in the book, I mean, I look at people, of course, I just forgot his name. Maybe someone can shout it out for me. But the doctor that was the psychiatrist that was so famous, that was a Holocaust victim, that went on to do bigger things. I can't remember his name off the top of my head right now, but I talk about his story in the book and how, I mean, he overcame one of the deepest, darkest parts of our history. And
the Holocaust, yeah.
Yes. And then here he is, and he was able to help others. And even in that sort of chapter, I went on like here's another Holocaust victim and here's their story. And it was something they did. And then the third person, it was a Holocaust victim who, she went on to be a awesome mother and wife, an awesome grandmother. And I think that's also very important for people to understand, that overcoming the overwhelming isn't always this big moment where you shake hands with the president. Overcoming the overwhelming for that person who just feels paralyzed from their pain, unable to get out of bed today. Sometimes overcoming your overwhelming is deciding, you know what, today I'm going to get up, I'm going to brush my teeth, and I'm going to be productive. And that's sometimes it's those little moments that add up to the big moments. And that's ultimately what I really try to make sure I explain in the book, that you don't have to have this big aha wake up moment with the president to be victorious.
Interesting. I have 2 autoimmune diseases. Actually, I have 3, but one is, no problem. A lot of people have it. But I also was in a wheelchair.
Oh, wow.
Yep.
For
And
at
I
least a year.
Yeah, longer than that. Not.
Yeah, at least. So,
yeah, for a few years. And, I thank God that I'm not in the wheelchair anymore. But I understand what you meant, because, I first was diagnosed a long time ago, 40 years ago, and they didn't know as much as they do now. And then the only way they can ever diagnose you with an autoimmune disease is if you're in a flare-up.
Yes.
And you have to be in a real bad flare-up, and then maybe they can. But
Right.
oh my gosh. I hated my neurologist so much, because I would have to go every month. And besides having all the MRIs that I was having, he'd poke me with a cattle prod. I swear to God, people, it was a cattle prod. Would send electrical stuff through my legs and everything, and I'm just like, oh goodness. But look, that's not to mean that when you're in the chaos and in that place that it's great and you can just decide in your head, I'm going to get over this.
yeah.
Exactly.
It's hard. It's a hard walk, and it isn't easy. And however, what we were talking about, Joseph, is that then, even though you went through all that, there comes a time when you're able then to reach a hand out and help somebody else.
Right.
Because you understand.
Yeah.
It's not like, oh, I have sympathy for you because, that sounds very sad. No,
Right. And I think, honestly,
know what that is.
Yeah. And if you ever go and look at different nonprofits, no matter what they're trying to help, resolve, most nonprofits, if you look at the founder, it was birthed out of their own sort of chaos. And it was like, hey, there's a need for this, and I want to help others. And that's very important.
Yes, I agree. It is really important. This is Paul Rushworth Brown from Sydney saying hi from sunny Sydney. Better late than never. Nice to meet you, Noah. Yeah,
Hello,
we knew it was you, Paul.
Yeah,
I was just
recognize the book.
letting him getting
Nice
the conversation.
Yeah, nice to meet you. I told someone the other day, he's from Australia.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and Bob White is also from Australia.
I was doing a podcast the other day in Australia, and I told the guy right before we started, I said, never been to Australia, but I love Outback Steakhouse. Just as a joke. And I said, so I know all about Australia. I know about their cheese fries.
Know how they eat.
Their
everything.
That started here in Tampa.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
You go. But no, I was just making a joke. But yeah, that's funny. I just said that. Yeah, this week.
We all know, throw another shrimp on the Barbie too, don't we? Right. That's all we Americans know. We're ignorant. So sorry, Bob and Paul.
You mentioned Paul the other day. You mentioned yesterday that this is not really a how-to book.
No.
Right?
Yeah.
No, it's more, if anything, what I want people to get out of it is that encouragement that they should stick around to fight one more day. And then one more day after that, and one more day. And to understand that, I put it this way in the book, and I know sometimes you guys have people who will read something, and I'll just share the story that's in the book. But there's this time I was in Hawaii on this road called the Road to Hana. It's a very dangerous road, and it's one lane, but traffic's going both ways. Makes no sense. And you're on the side of this mountain, and while you're on the side of this mountain, somebody at some point has to pull over. And it's crazy to think that you're about to pull over further to the edge. But long story short, I remember at night after we were coming back from Hana back to our condo, it started raining so hard that we could not see in front of us, beside us, or behind us. And so all we could do was just stop and wait out the storm. And I think and then before long, the storm let up. We could see again, and we could go forward again. And I think for a lot of times when we're in the midst of chaos, we feel so scared because we can't see because of the storm around us. We can't see behind us or beside us or in front of us, that we just stop and we get so fearful because we don't know what to do. And this book is to remind people, if you're in the storm, please know this, and it's that the storm will let up and you will be able to see again and you will be able to go forward again. And so it's just that reminder to hold on, don't give up.
But you're not saying in the book that you'll be healed.
Correct. Definitely not.
Right.
Because
right. That's very important that people don't.
Exactly. They actually shared a story in the book, and I forgot all about it until you just said that, Rob, and I appreciate that. I was at this conference one time, and I remember this was probably 15 years ago, and I saw these students whose friend was a senior in high school, and he got in a bad car wreck, and he was paralyzed, paraplegic from the neck down. And I remember these students were like praying so hard. All they wanted to do was see their friend walk. Mm-hmm. And I don't typically go into this hardcore miracle sort of theology, but I will say this: they were praying, and I saw like this dude. He was between these two students, two friends of his. He took like a step, and I was like, "Wow!" But then he was back in the wheelchair, and I think that was powerful for me to see, because sometimes I'm like, ooh, I don't get into all that, in my mindset. But for me that day, it was a reminder that, okay, God may not have healed him right then and there, but that one step that he took reminded me that God could heal him. Does that make sense?
It does.
So in that moment, it's not. And I definitely, when I talk about lupus, I may not be in a wheelchair, but that doesn't mean I don't have it still.
I still have my autoimmune diseases. Exactly. I do. And I still have to see my doctor all the time and have constant blood work.
Right. And so it doesn't mean that you're always going to be healed. In fact, I sometimes struggle. There's certain Christian movies sometimes that I struggle with, because the whole movie, you see all of this chaos for the character, right? And their car breaks down, their wife can't have a baby, they lose their job, and then they find God, and all of a sudden, a brand new car comes along. Their wife has the baby. He gets this awesome job. They can move into $1 million house. And I'm like, I cringe when I see that, because I'm like, that's not reality. That's not how it works. No, he's not some genie. You don't just accept them and then you rub the lamp and you get whatever you want. So no, I'm glad you asked that, Rob, because I definitely never want that to be the idea, the message. That you automatically get what you want the second you read a book like this, or you say, God, I'm in this. And that's not how it works.
Right.
Actually, Paul says, I'm actually off work right now, suffering from my form of chaos, depression, and anxiety.
Wow. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. Yeah.
Me too. Yeah.
And
that's new.
And that's, just like I mentioned earlier, Paul, I think before you came on, I was talking about my dad and how grief sometimes is something that lingers. It's you walk, grief walks with you. And I feel that, similar with depression, a lot of times it's like when you walk, it walks. And some days are harder than others. And so I'm sorry to hear that, Paul.
Yeah, me too. I think the anxiety is a big deal too. I mean, if you do have something like, that that with autoimmune diseases, and when you're in a flare up, there are certain things that you can feel that you'll know, am I ready to have another flare up? And it's anxiety ridden because you don't want to go through that again. But that's a really hard thing to overcome, to be able to live and realize that not every time that you feel pins and needles that it means you're starting another flare up and you're gonna not be able to use your right leg, or it's like your leg just fell asleep.
Exactly.
Well,
that's life.
It is break time. Our last break. When we come back, we still have some more to talk about, so don't go away.
An unforgettable mystery thriller that will transport you back to 17th century England. Introducing Dream of Courage, facing fear head-on, your passport to 17th century mystery, mayhem, and murder. Follow Robert and John Rushworth through Leeds' bustling Briggate district, where danger lurks in the shadows, embodied by the thief-taker Jacob Wilding. You will laugh, you will cry, and be in awe of the twists and turns. Its meticulous attention to character development, emotional nuance, and the unfolding of the story's layers promise a compelling and emotionally charged journey. The U.S. National Times said, "Modern writers usually don't know what it was like to live in the past, but Rushworth Brown does this with great skill." Uncover the secrets of Smythe, the enigmatic tavern keeper who sends Robert to the Haven, to the pirate Captain Girlington. Will he outwit danger in the nick of time?
It's 1919, and Eric Laska returns from the war in Europe. Two new enemies await him in the small, coal-mining town he calls home. One is a threat to his relationship with Rebecca, the love of his life. The other, a bloodthirsty beast, is stalking the mining town residents. The townspeople suspect Eric of one of the killings. An old man and Rebecca's 11-year-old sister have seen the beast, but only Eric believes their story. To protect the town and clear his name, he's forced to prove the werewolf exists. Available on Amazon. The Horror Within by Marjorie Swift Doring.
Paradise, my prison. Charlie Flint awakens from a deep sleep and finds himself alone on a tropical beach surrounded by a palm tree jungle and exotic animals. He cannot remember who he is or anything about his life. First, he must find food and build shelter and protect himself from hidden dangers. As his memory gradually returns, it reveals what a very flawed person he is. A man who made too many mistakes, made too many enemies. The implications of the truth are staggering. How did Charlie get there? And will he save himself? Paradise, My Prison is the riveting new suspense thriller from retired Hollywood scriptwriter George Dismukes. Paradise, My Prison by George Dismukes is available in jacketed hardcover, softcover, and all ebook formats worldwide.
And we're back. Paul said writing is like my escape from it. And then he said, "Sorry, I have to go to the docks. No, it sounds like a fascinating novel, and I wish you all the best with it. Love you, Rob and Joan. We love you too,
Thank you, Paul."
Yes. And so really, I'm so glad that you're able to get 800,000 books into prisoners because, God knows they need it. But this isn't a book just for that. It's for everyday people that are living with all kinds of everyday chaos that, if it is no work or some kind of illness or,
Can you tell us a little bit about the formatting of your book, how it's set up?
Yeah, that's a good question. I broke it down into 3 sections, and I do use that metaphor of how storms and battles come. That's why on the cover you see the arrows and the storm clouds, and then the umbrella. The umbrella really signifies for me like how God just covers us. He protects us. We're covered from the attacks of the enemy. And so the first section of the book, I call it Prepare. And it's all about how we know storms come our way. We know battles happen in our life. We know chaos strikes. So how do we prepare our hearts and our minds for when they do attack? And, there's a chapter, for example, about friends and how important it is to have people in your corner that can protect you. In scripture, there's a place where these 4 friends had a paralyzed friend, and they knew Jesus was close by. So they carried their friend to Jesus, and there was no room in the building. So they decided to take him to the roof, open the roof, and lower him to Jesus. Mm-hmm. Jesus looks at the 4 friends. He looks up and he says, "Hey guys, by your faith, your friend is healed." And I think that's very beautiful to understand that sometimes again, when we're paralyzed from our pain and from our chaos and we just can't move because we're just so overwhelmed, we need people in our corner who will say, you know what, I'll lower you. I got you. And so we talk about how important that is. And then the second section of the book is really the meat of the book, because it's called In the Midst. And I think for a majority of people who pick up a book called Chaos, they're probably experiencing it. And so, or know someone who is. And so that's the meat. That's the point where I really try to hit hard about how to find your purpose in the midst of all of the pain, and how to not just stop there. For me, it's kind of tiered. It goes from pain to purpose and then to platform. Is to take your chaos and to say, I'm not going to let it control me or confine me any longer. I'm going to take charge, and it's finding purpose in it, but also finding that platform so you can truly help others. And then the third section, I love it because I feel like I'll forever be living in this season, this section of the book, but it's called The Aftermath. And it's all about once the storm dissipates and the enemy retreats, a lot of times we're left with rubble and we have to rebuild. And so how do we do that? And so it talks through different ways in which we can pick up the pieces that are worth salvaging and worth saving and building a stronger, bigger life than what we had even before. And it's just to help, people. I think one thing about rebuilding, we're always rebuilding. We're always growing. And there's, like I mentioned earlier too, about Joseph's life and how it wasn't even something he did. It was something that was done to him. But once he was in that palace role, he had the power to say, off with their heads, and just end it for these guys. And he chose not to. And that's powerful in itself. And so I even have a chapter in that section about what's your target? And it's like, who are you trying to attack? And what forgiveness really looks like, and how reconciliation is so much more important than retaliation. And I love that chapter. We talk about the game Angry Birds, if you're familiar with that game. Mm-hmm. And the whole premise, I didn't even know there was a backstory, but there is. And the whole backstory of that game is these pigs took the eggs that belong to the birds, and the birds are upset. And so now
justifiably upset.
Yes.
Yes.
Justifiable. I mean, that's where
they are. Yeah, it makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. You attack your family, or they stole their family.
Their
I think
children.
I see in the book they went very Liam Neeson, from Taken. They're like, we will find you, pigs. We will murder you. And so
Liam Neeson.
But what's funny in that game, though, the whole idea is now you see pigs, these green, ugly pigs, and you see these houses around them, or these barriers, these things that are built all around the eggs. And the whole premise of the game is these angry birds are flying in to not only attack the pigs, but to tear down everything around them. And that ultimately is what happens a lot of times when we choose retaliation versus reconciliation, is we not only hurt the person we're trying to hurt, we hurt everything around it, and we cause destruction. I think I put it this way, is that if you plant revenge, expect destruction to sprout up along the way. And that's just truth. And it's just understanding that. And so it's to help people, but it's also, I never want it to come across as I'm just saying, whatever, move on. Like you're hurt, get over it. It's never that sort of mentality. No. And it's understandably, like you just mentioned with Angry Birds, it's justifiable. Mm-hmm. And sometimes the chaos that was brought up upon us is justified. Like we have every reason to be upset. Joseph had every reason to be upset. But you're not just forgiving them for them. I mean, you're really doing it for yourself. And that's ultimately what I want to see happen. I think rebuilding back better than before happens when we can, that's one of the steps that is necessary for building back better.
We're kind of running down on the time a little bit here.
Yeah.
I did want you to talk, or I think the audience would like to hear a little bit about what you have to offer authors in
we
the
haven't
chaos
touched
movement.
on that at all.
You mentioned it just a little bit at the beginning, but what's the chaos movement all about?
Yeah, so the chaos movement, we started out doing consulting for small businesses and doing a lot of marketing for small businesses, and it's done well. And it was really back, at the beginning of the year when we were looking through how we were going to market stuff. I guess really the end of last year, we started really researching on what was necessary to market a book. We jokingly talked earlier, didn't we, about how writing a book is only half the battle. The other half is marketing it. And so we were told so many different things. It was like, oh, we can do these 5 steps for you. And I'm like, oh, this sounds great. How much? And they go $30,000. I'm like, for what? What are you charging me $30,000 for? And so we were deciding, you know what, we want to help authors build their platform and help them because we understand the struggle. And so we wanted to offer some stuff that we found out worked. And we've been able to do it with the launch of my book, but we've also been helping other authors, and it's been very successful, thankfully. And it's just been through marketing, but also social media presence, website design. We've been able to take on all of that. And I think personally, if you want to be successful, surround yourself with successful, awesome people. And that's what I've been so blessed with, is I have such awesome people in my corner that are not only my friends, but work with me. And we are able to help build some great websites, great social media platforms. We even do these coaching one-on-ones about their book, and we've helped find these one-liners that help not only when you're doing some sort of event where you're having one-on-one conversations, but even interview prep, to give them those one-liners that help them not only sell their book, but also just explain their book very well. And so that's what we help with. It's awesome. I get excited talking about.
And that all can be found on the website too, right?
Yes. There's on the ASHER.com. There's a tab at the top that says "Hire Us," and you can go there and you can find all the stuff.
Sort of a subliminal message,
right? That's
Hire Us. Very subliminal.
And they push the button, and it automatically takes the money out of their account, right?
Exactly. That's one-stop shop.
Yeah.
Tom Nally. Hello, Tom, in your empty chair. Long time no see. Someone we've known for a long time. We used to be on a Zoom with him, and he would
during lockdown,
and often Tom would leave and just his empty chair would be there. So we started, we would talk to the empty chair.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yes, it was. You had to find things to amuse yourself when we were all being locked down.
That's very true. Very true.
Well, this has been really... Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say thank you both for what you do to help authors share not only their book, but to share just the celebration of it all. Writing a book, marketing a book, all of it's hard work. It's such gifts that people have. A lot of people tonight that I've seen, you're talking about how they're authors. So you've created this place for them. So thank you for that. And I've enjoyed my time with you.
And we've enjoyed our time with you. And I think another thing I'd like to mention too is that I think most of us have been taught not to be conceited and not to brag and, not to put ourselves forward. And I just want to say that if you have a book and it's a good book, you need to own that it's a good book. You love the book. You wrote it. There's nothing wrong with saying this is a great book. You should read it.
Right.
And
be proud of it.
I think it's very difficult for authors to do that.
Yes.
Right.
To say, buy my book.
Yes. I agree with that. And that's one thing that we see a lot with the authors we've helped so far is it's that initial of you have to own this. You have to build the authority that you know what you're doing. And if you don't, you need to fake it till you make it. But come on, you gotta step up. And I've seen that too. A lot of times some authors are just very introverted. That's why they picked up writing.
That's why they're authors.
To begin with. And And so that's part of it, but yeah, you have to break some of that.
All right. Well, thank you very much for joining us. We're going to move you over to the side now and say good night. Hang on. Hang in there until we come back to you there, Noah. And thanks so much for sharing. I think you've helped a lot of people tonight. I want to remind everybody to gather around the campfire tomorrow night at Carter Novels on the Carter Novels Facebook page or the Haunted Campfire Tales podcast Facebook page to hear lessons from the Seashell Kingdom with Shelley Hansen. She's got a lot to share. And then next week we'll see you live with Angela Yuriko Smith. And that's about all I've got. Do you have anything more?
I just want to thank everybody again for being in the audience. We love your comments. Don't be shy. We can see there's others of you out there not commenting or asking questions, which is fine. But
we'd like to get to know you.
We would like to get to know you better.
There you go.
Yes. Oh, we've got a comment. Paul Hollis says, great show again. Thanks, Rob and Joan and Noah.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you, Paul, as usual.
Alrighty.
It's good seeing you.
So, I guess then, until next time.
Is that all, folks?
That's all, folks. See ya.
Just next.
Live every Wednesday, your Voice of Indie hosts Beam Weeks and Stephen Gees welcome authors, musicians, publishing industry pros, artists, and assorted creative guests for an exciting interactive hour. Call in during the show or post questions and comments on Twitter for responses in real time. Meet your favorite indie creators, learn inside tips, network, and promote your work. The link for each week's show is pinned on Twitter atop @VoiceOfIndie. And you can receive the link every Wednesday morning in your inbox by subscribing to our newsletter at freshinkgroup.com. Check out Voice of Indie every Wednesday on Blog Talk Radio and catch hundreds of episodes archived everywhere from our websites to our YouTube channel and Spotify.
Thank you for joining us here on Meet the Author. Make sure you stay up to date with our show by clicking like, follow, and share. And you can find us on Spotify, iTunes, and more. See you next time on WLFE-DV.com.